and welcome to another edition of Resistance TV. In tonight's programme, we're going to be looking at so-called 15-minute cities and 20-minute neighbourhoods with Mike Bull. The idea is supposed to enable people living in cities and suburban communities to access 6 essential functions within a 15 or 20-minute walk or bike ride from wherever they live. This includes things like healthcare, education, entertainment and shopping, etc. I mean, the idea is gaining some traction in some parts of the world. And so on the face of it, actually, it sounds like a good idea. So what we want to talk about this evening is the, what the downsides are, because it's caused some controversy. I'm going to bring in Mike now to just tell us, first of all, Mike, if you can, about your story and, what happened. And because people watching this evening may have seen the footage. I think it's gone viral. I think we were saying before we went on air, it's had something like 250,000 views where there's a public meeting where this idea was being considered. And there was, I think it was a town hall, village hall, which was absolutely packed. And Mike was one of the leading spokespeople in that meeting. And I think it would be helpful, Mike, if you could maybe just sort of set out, what the plan was from the point of view of your neighbourhood and why it caused such controversy in the local community. Because, I mean, often it's difficult to get well-attended public meetings, but that was standing room only. And it's, if anybody hasn't seen the video yet, it's well worth a watch. It's a real good example, in my opinion, of sort of people power. Really, it's kind of real grassroots democracy in action. So, Mike, over to you. Just tell us a bit about your story and and what happened, and particularly that meeting, etc.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, good evening to you, and good evening to the viewers. Our story started primarily sort of early February. We become aware there had been a press release in the Eastern Daily Press, which is our county newspaper, and said that Thetford, the Norfolk as a county had been chosen to consider investigation and research into the 20-minute neighbourhoods. Other cities are having 15-minute cities, but more rural, they're tending to go 20-minute neighbourhoods. So this obviously sparked alarm bells from us, because I personally haven't been down to Oxford. I wasn't able to go on the day that they went, but many people from Thetford have been down to Oxford. So they've experienced and spoken to the people down at Oxford as to how the plan that's been put in place down there has affected them dramatically. So as soon as we heard that, we kind of got together with a stand in the park, which there's obviously been running pretty much since the pandemic started. So the members of the stand in the park got together. One particular member, which we're very grateful to, got some leaflets printed out, which we were able to distribute. And then it became aware that it grabbed momentum, that we basically sort of like highlighted the downside to the 20-minute neighbourhoods and brought it to people's attention. And it really did grab traction, so much so that obviously we went to the council meeting. The initial meeting was at the town hall, if you like, for the council offices in Thetford, but there were far too many of us. It was considered a health and safety risk, so we relocated, or the council relocated, up to the Thomas Paine Hotel, which is obviously fairly poignant with being the rights of man. He's from Thetford, so we went up there, and that was where the challenge was actually filmed. So it was actually at the Thomas Paine Hotel in Thetford.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Well, just tell us what those downsides are then, if you can, Mike.
Well, the downsides generally, to be honest with you, are the as we see it, and it's becoming more and more evident in most areas, that they look to investigate and research. And I think there are two key things that we need to come back to in a little while, because we can actually sort of like challenge those now. The investigation and research. I mean, there's so much has gone on behind the scenes, and the council wasn't aware that we would establish it, but I have established it, and there's significant things that are put in place now. Funding for one, complete lies with regard to the fact that it's investigation and research. I have absolutely no doubt, Chris, that this is going ahead. This is planned for Norfolk, and they're using the investigation and research in order to bring it in a stealth manner. But we've put a spanner in the works there as residents of Thetford. We've certainly put a spanner in the works, because we've guessed them, we've second guessed them, and it's got to stop. The downsides, as I see it, to be honest with you, they come in with the sugar on the tongue. like any medicine, it's always sugar coated to take the taste of
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
bitter
course.
taste away. And the bitter taste is that we will be punished as motorists, because obviously you have to understand that the 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes either way. So 10 minutes to go to your local community, to go, everything is available within 10 minutes of your own postcode area, if you like.
So when they say 20-minute neighbourhood, then that's a kind of that's a return journey then.
Oh yeah. No, that's 10 minutes either way, and by cycle or by foot. So
I see.
you know, it negates the. But they're quite clever. I mean, this is a typical government corporation scam. There's no two ways about that, because they say, well, you've got a choice, but you know the choice is you either walk and cycle and don't pay a fine, or take a car and pay a fine. Well, that's no choice. That's outrageous.
No.
You know, that's an invasion of civil liberties, but using a loophole that they think they can use. But that's no way, absolutely no way.
What was the reaction of people in Oxford? Because you live in a sort of relatively sort of rural, sort of semi-rural area, and you were saying it's kind of 20-minute neighbourhoods for rural communities, and this sort of 15-minute city idea for obviously for cities. Oxford is a city. I just wonder, I mean, do you think it lends itself more to cities than rural areas? But it was you spoke to people, you were saying, in Oxford, and obviously that is a city, and they were seemingly just as concerned as you were. So what were the sort of complaints that they were articulating when you spoke to them, Mike?
I think it was the fact that they were, I mean, firstly, let me tell you that this doesn't fit a city, it doesn't fit a town. This cannot happen, and this should not happen, because this is, you know, this is a breach of our freedoms of movement. You know what I mean? So wholeheartedly, this is, you know, I will never agree to it occurring anywhere, because, you know, humanity says that, you know, and certainly my moral compass is too aligned to allow this to happen anywhere. But the feedback we get from Oxford is that people were able to make a relatively simplistic journey from their house to their work, from their house to the shops, etc., etc. But they've put planters in, they've put bollards in, and as usual, you know, it doesn't take you long to go on the internet and find it. But you've got members of the public. You know, I mean, these people, I mean, it beggars belief, really, but they're standing in the way of a car, and they're saying, you can't come down here, because they believe the government, because they think they're doing the right thing, because they've been programmed beyond return. But the reality is it affects those people as well. All right, maybe they don't own a car, maybe they don't work further away, maybe they can adjust their lives, but that's their choice. If they want to do that, that's fine. Get on and do it. But don't stand in the way of a car. Don't impede somebody and think you're doing the right thing because you're on the bigger side. Because I tell you now, you people, I'll tell them straight, they're going to be on the wrong side of history.
It sounds like it's the divided communities then, with some people strongly in support. What about? I mean, that's obviously Oxford that I think you're talking about there, where it's apparently been implemented. I mean, are the people supportive of the idea where you live, or is it more or less universal opposition?
No, I don't think they are, to be honest with you. I mean, what we've got is we've got a lot of people that, dare I say it, are still fast asleep. Do you know what I mean? You know, they're that'll never happen. That'll never happen. Well, I say, wake up. It is happening. It is happening. And if you come to the party too late, all the food's going to be gone. So, you know, you need to be there early days, and you need to unite with us, and you need to stand up against this. If not for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, you know, for your neighbours. But just do it. You have to defend this.
Yes.
You have to defend this. To do nothing is to consent, and I will never consent. I said that on the night of the 28th. I don't consent. You know, show me an obligation. Show me a lawful obligation that I have to consent, and then we can start talking legal terms. But until that time, no way. I'll never put up with this.
I know that in the video, which I recommend people view it, and perhaps Gaz could maybe put a link up on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's available on the LSB Film Productions. Chris Brooks, there's a local guy here who's got his own YouTube channel, and that was on there. So, but if anybody wants to see
I was going to say, because in that video, I mean, I think they talk about conflict. I know that you and the community there were giving the councillors a hard time because, you know, obviously they're elected to represent people, and they seemingly they'd consented something without actually, you know, going back and getting approval from the people that they're supposed to represent. But I seem to remember in the video, it's a week or so, well, more than a week, actually, it's a few weeks actually since I've seen the video. Okay. I seem to recall there was something in there where they were talking about, well, there'd been some consultation. I mean, has there been any consultation? And what if so, what form did that consultation take?
Well, firstly, no, there's been no consultation, and we
were
made aware of it from the EDP. And that was a month after, bearing in mind that the original decision, the policy had been proposed to the Norfolk County Council at a meeting on the 13th of December 22. Right. We weren't made aware of it, or we weren't, become aware of it from the 24th of January. So that was over a month. No, there's been no consultation. Listen, when we had the meeting, we had a further meeting. Obviously, we discussed that the 30th of March. We had a further meeting at the Carnegie Rooms. And, they sat there as blasé as anything. And what we went there with is a challenge to the restrictions, what they gave us. And I should have predicted it really and planned it a little bit better. But they gave us, well, there aren't going to be any restrictions. So it kind of, I wouldn't say took the wind out of our sails, but it kind of put us on the back foot. But I said to people, just let them talk then, because they will talk themselves into claims. There's no two ways about that. So then we give something to investigate. And that's exactly what we did. And let me tell you now that night they lied through their teeth, and they on camera, on film. I mean, Tom McCabe, the CEO effectively of Norfolk County Council, said that he was going to send a letter through to say that there wouldn't be any restrictions imposed in Thetford, and he would send that to the town council. It's never been received. I'm chasing it up now.
So when you say there wasn't going to be any restrictions, Mike, I mean, so what they're saying, they were going to introduce this idea, but they would just be urging people just to, as it were, abide by the spirit of it, but there wouldn't be any penalties if they didn't then. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that night, if you listen to Tom McCabe, Thetford won the postcode lottery because we're going to get all this fantastic infrastructure. We're going to get, new schools, new shops, new doctors, new dentists. You won't have to wait. You won't have to do a Skype video to see a doctor. Or a Zoom meeting or whatever it is they do. But that's rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. They coughed it on the night. 66 million is what the figure that they gave us. 66 million pound in debt, Norfolk County Council. And you think to yourself, well, hang on a second. Firstly, I wrote that down and I just put an exclamation mark by it because I thought, right, let them run. So they did. But 66 million pound in debt. But bearing in mind, Chris, when we all pay our council tax, we go to work, we earn money and we pay council tax. But we pay that monthly. Well, across the county, I mean, there is a significant sum of money is deposited to the council every month. How did they get, if it is 66 million, there's an inference, and I won't discuss the figures because obviously that at the moment is, is still being investigated, but there's an inference it's significantly more, a lot more, hundreds of millions, that they're in debt. And you kind of think to yourself, like, where are you going to get the money for the infrastructure? Well, the only thing you can do really is borrow further off the government, and interest we're going to have to pay. To me, I just look at it and I just think to myself, we were visited by people who are in extremely high paid jobs. I mean, I've got an EDP link, Chris, which shows that top Norfolk councillors between 21 and 22 year for the financial side of things, there was nearly £6 million in wages paid. £6 million, Chris. And there's over 47 on £100,000 or more. For what? For what? That's our money. That's our money. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting into the council. We can't touch the government because they're effectively too far away and too big. What we can do is move much closer to home and rip this Norfolk County Council a new one. And I have every intention of doing that. I'm looking to suspend my council tax and I'll put it into a separate account on the basis that I want them audited. I want them to show me that my investment in their company is a worthwhile investment, because at the moment it's not looking very good. And yes, I understand.
I mean, local government finance, of course, has been under pressure because it's made up of a range of different sources. there's government grant, there's council tax, and business rates, and so on. And I guess local government, I mean, the things that they, there's kind of things like child care, child protection, elderly care, social care, as well as highways. I mean, there's a lot of responsibilities that they have. I mean, so I've some sympathies, frankly, with with local government, with the financing situation that they are in, the difficult position that they've been put in by years of kind of underinvestment, really, and which is then felt by people, ordinary residents on the ground. Of course, and council tax has been going up and up, and people are saying, well, what are we getting for that? Quite rightly, but I mean, that's not just down to the council, of course. That's down to kind of government policy. But is the pressure for this coming from central government on to local government to say this is a good idea, this is the sort of thing you should be doing? Or is it something that local government, in Norfolk's case and Oxford's case, for example, that they've unilaterally decided this is a good idea, we're going to go and implement this and push this idea upon local communities? I mean, do you know whether the government is pushing it, or whether it's, as I say, local government just deciding in Norfolk, in your case, that we're going to push forward with this idea?
I'll answer this question, then I just wonder if I can just go back to your original statement that you just made there, because I've got some information for you that's going to be quite relevant, and I think we'll.
Okay, go on. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
With regard to where this is coming from, we know where it's coming from. Agenda 2030, Klaus Schwab, WEF. I don't mind saying it. People are always, no, that's a conspiracy theory. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. This is top down. This isn't.
Well, the World Economic Forum isn't a fantasy; it's a reality.
Well, of course it is, yeah. And you've an Agenda 2030. You'll own nothing and be happy, people. Suck it up. It's happening, and so it's top down. The council are implementing it because they're nothing more than puppets. They're self-interest puppets. They're getting paid to implement it. They don't consider the wider plan. All they're thinking about is their pocket and their company. So this is top down. This has been planned for a long time. This goes along with like Jeff Mealing, a good friend of mine that was at Trafalgar. CBD's, the central bank and digital currency. CBDC.
We discussed that, Mike, on this program actually 2 or 3 episodes ago, actually, about the worries about CBDC. But sorry to cut across.
No, there's no problem. So in answer to your question, this is top down. There's no 2 words about that. And obviously, you've got maybe 100 councils. The UK 100 councils are implementing the system across the country. But what I want to just do quickly, it was really interesting. It sparked an alarm bell with me, because you mentioned about care being one of the biggest contributors in relation to council tax, adult care, child care, and everything else. Right. Let me just introduce you to Norse, Norse. Norse is a company, has 10,000 employees across the UK. It's worth £115 million. It's got Norse Care Services, Norse Road Services, Norse Catering, Norse Waste Management, Norse Transport, Norse Infrastructure. And I keep saying Norse because that's a key word in this. So they land acquisition, refurbs, new builds, etc., etc. But guess what? That company showed last year a very, very small loss, very small. 100% owned by Norfolk County Council. The lead councillor, Andrew Proctor, sits on the board of directors. The other lead councillor, Andrew Wood, who's the chairman of Adnams Ales at Southwold, sits on the board of directors. They're lining their pockets, people. They're lining their pockets. That's what they're doing. They're feeding themselves with our money. Norse is sitting there quite happy, and Norse is ready to be used as an infrastructure company for the 20-minute neighbourhoods. Now it all starts to make sense.
Well, it's a tragedy, really, I think, what's happened to local government. I used to be in local government myself. I was a leader of the council in Derby, and I rolled out what we referred to as a neighbourhood agenda, whereby I brought actually other public services on board as well, and we were essentially putting local communities in the driving seat. So the idea was to consult with local people in each local area and to give real power to communities over what the priority should be in each neighbourhood. Because in a city like Derby, which isn't particularly that spread out, it's relatively small city, but even so, from one end of Derby to another, there are very different priorities in that sense. And I was very passionate about the fact that local people should determine what the priorities of public spending should be. They know what the real concerns are and issues are in their locality. And I was also keen to make sure that it wasn't just the council that was being steered by local people, it was other public services as well. So the health service and the police and the fire and rescue service, etc. You know, the idea worked, I think. I mean, you know, we didn't get a chance to fully develop it because of, you know, the political vagaries and the Labour Party, which I was used to be a member of then, and Gordon Brown was very unpopular, and you know, we got caught in the you know, in the slipstream of that, really. And so that programme, we weren't able to develop it as much as we wanted to do, because, as I say, there ended up being a change in the leadership of the authority. But the principle, though, in my opinion, I don't know what you think about this, should be this whole kind of neighbourhood approach. That should be the way, in my opinion, public services should operate, or, you know, throughout the land in that sense, because we should be, because in the end they're supposed to be being delivered on behalf of local people. But it seems to me they're ending up, what we've seen is that public services have been externalised. We've seen these arm's length companies being established, like you've just mentioned, in Norfolk, Norse, etc. I mean, that's quite common now. And then you've just wholesale, you know, not even companies which have got any connection with the council, where services are just farmed out to the private sector to, you know, make profit out of it. I mean, you know, we see this across the public sector, not just in terms of local government. You know, you only have to look at the utilities and the massive profits that the energy companies are making, which used to be in public ownership, the water industry and so on and so forth. You know, massive leaks, huge bills, the energy companies, you know, huge bills and poor quality service, massive dividends for shareholders and railway companies. So this has been an agenda that's been ongoing for 40 odd years, and it's being, you know, developed still further now, from what you're saying, it seems to me anyway, with this approach now that's being rolled out. And you're absolutely right, I think, to highlight the whole issue around the you know, this kind of top-down World Economic Forum. And it's not a conspiracy theory to actually say that. I mean, this is, you know, a tactic, I think, which is used by the establishment, used by the powers that be, to dismiss people as cranks, as conspiracy theorists. But, you know, conspiracies do exist. You know, conspiracies do happen. And, you know, we're seeing this in real time in terms of, you know, look, we're the 5th biggest economy in the world. And yet we've got people sleeping on the street. You know, we've got people in poverty, people unable to put food on the table, people unable to heat their homes properly. And then we're seeing, you know, schemes like this coming into being, which is going to, on the face of it, help people, but they're actually going to penalise people with fines and so on, as you point out. What sort of fines are they been subjected to or implementing in Oxford that where it's actually already happening?
Well, I mean, the system of fines at the moment is obviously from the ANPR cameras, so automatic number plate recognition cameras. So if you're driving a vehicle, I believe it's, I mean, there was a program on last night when they were on the BBC with Panorama. It was Road Wars Neighbourhood, and you know, they were talking the amounts. I don't really know. I mean, I know Birmingham was subjected to a very similar scheme. But thousands of people, and this is where the strength is. Thousands of people went, no, I'm not paying it. I'm not paying it. Yeah. I don't agree with it. I didn't consent to it. I don't want it. You know, I'm not going to pay it. I'm not contributing. And this is where I can't stress enough that people need to do this with council tax, because we're funding the beast. We're feeding the beast. We're actually funding our own demise. Every time you put that money, withhold the money, and we will start to make some inroads into them. At the moment,
well, I mean, there's a good tradition for that. I mean, going back, you know, many years, you know, to rent strikes in Glasgow and so on. We've got profiteering landlords housing people in substandard accommodation, and, you know, rent strikes were led up. I mean, people ended up being in prison, you know, for leading these rent strikes, but it did actually bear some fruit. And I mean, I guess if people are going to do that, I think it would be a good idea to make sure you actually set that money aside somewhere, so that, you know, if in the fullness of time you end up having to, you know, you've got it. I mean, but of course the problem is, for a lot of people, you know, they're up against it with massive energy bills and one thing and another. But what are the local councillors saying? Because I mean, there's at least one, I think, at that meeting. Are they I mean, are they receptive to what you're saying? I mean, are they saying, well, we'll come on board and we'll actually take up your case, or what are they saying?
Well, they're saying that at the moment, but I mean, we're in mid campaign for an election on the 4th of May. So they'll say,
of course, yeah. Well, I suppose so. Yeah.
They're going to say whatever they're not going to tell the truth at this stage. But ultimately, Chris, that's what happened in Oxford. Pre-election, no. Post-election, there you go, you've got it, it's yours. And I think one of the councillors was quite blatant to say, I mean, you're getting it, whether you want it or not, you're getting it. But that was one thing. Had his seat secure for 4 years. Well, to me, it's just that can't happen. That can't happen.
Are these county council elections that you're talking about, or town council elections?
Well, this is town and district. This is at
I see, town district, right?
The county, I believe, they've got another 2 years to go before that. So
right.
God knows what sort of state we're going to be in by then. Even if there is a council, I personally, I mean, it's a massive way down the road, but I'm all for a local community council. You know what I mean? Start making your own decisions. I'm looking into at the moment, and I'm actively. But you've got to understand, I'm trying to work to pay my bills, and also do this as well. So it's not a full-time occupation for me, but it seems like it at the moment, obviously. And I'm happy to do that. I don't have an issue, but where I don't always get the chance to speak to these people. But I'm looking at a community trust fund, like a community trust fund would basically be what it is. And then we can start paying into it. Now, just on that note, we've got 13 people. We managed to get 13 independent electees, if you like, for want of a better term, to sit on the town council elections, and 8 of those will become district councillors. And I'm hoping I'm out tomorrow with a friend of mine, Christian Steele, and we're hitting areas of our town. It won't make any difference to where they are, but we're hitting areas of our town, and we're all putting leaflets out, and we're not.
Oh, so you've got people standing for election, then, have you?
Yeah, we've got 13 independent.
Right. Right.
It's never happened. So you can see the community spirit that we've got.
Yeah.
And we're keeping that momentum up. Definitely keeping that momentum up, and we're trying to set a scene and a standard and a model for other people to follow.
Well, of course. I mean, I think if you can get some people elected, then that will, I think, inspire other communities who might be subjected to similar schemes or other schemes. That you don't just have to accept what is given. You can fight back. And are you getting a good reception on the doorstep and from the community?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've still got the Labour right, so I appreciate that, and you've still got the people who are Tory, they're through and through. But but definitely, without a doubt, I mean, the support, and for those that are watching tonight, I'm eternally grateful to you, because obviously, like, without your support, I wouldn't have the inspiration to carry on at times. It's a tough journey, but we pull together. Our community is a strong community, and people are now starting to. They're starting to smell a rat, and whilst a lot of people would turn around and go, well, just let them go. No, our arms are open. Come and see us. Come and do it. The Stand in the Park on a Sunday, 10:30. Stand in the Park down by the Light Cinema. That will know, people locally will know more about that. But come and see us there, and then meet us maybe on a Thursday night. We go up to the Thomas Paine, which is effectively like our little headquarters now, and we go up there and we discuss the week's events. And there's a massive community spirit. If I go shopping in the town, people are like, they want to come up, shake your hand. Well done. We're with you. And I say, if you are with me, then put your name in the box. Take your ID, because you've got to have the ID for voting this year.
I know. And that's another bloody thing, which is, again, a knock against our democracy. It's
there you go. There's your choice. You've got, we're giving you a choice. You can vote, but you must bring voter ID. And it isn't that well publicised.
No, indeed.
They're not going to, are they? You turn up there and you go, I want to vote. Okay, have you got your photo ID? No, I haven't. Oh, sorry, clock's running.
This is all designed to suppress voter participation and to basically, sustain the status quo. Again, that's not a conspiracy theory. Frankly, it's the sort of thing that the Republicans have done for generations in the United States. It's very much out of that playbook to, suppress, particularly in that case, the black vote in the south of the US in particular. And it seems that, they're sort of following a similar vein with this idea. But definitely, if you can get people elected, and even the fact that you're putting people up, I think that will be encouraging to others that you can fight back and you can push back against the beast, as it were, the establishment. And definitely, if you can get people elected, I mean, that will be a great boost, not just for you locally, I think, but I think it will encourage people elsewhere in the country. I mean, just for the benefit of people outside of your area who are watching tonight and who may watch the program or listen to the podcast afterwards,
Okay.
Where can people get in touch with you? I mean, or the campaign, as it were, so that they can get some ideas from what you've done and maybe learn from the things that have gone well for you, and if there's any mistakes that you perhaps might make. I think imparting that information is really good, because we really need to build, in my opinion, that we need to rediscover that sense of social solidarity, because particularly more recently, we've been atomized as communities. People working at home, all sounds very nice and so on, but you become very isolated. Shopping online, you're very isolated. That sense of communing with other people in your community, etc., is being lost, and that suits the likes of the World Economic Forum. Because if we're all atomized and we're all beavering away in our own home or whatever, shopping online, working from home, and so on, you've not got that chance then to build a campaign, to build solidarity, because you're all isolated. And so I think campaigns like yours are really inspiring. As I say, to see people, the number of people that you mobilised to come to that meeting, I think was wonderful. So yeah, is there an email address or a social media handle that you can give us that we can encourage people to contact you on?
I personally have been, obviously I'm on Messenger, and I regularly check and go through those, because I get message requests come through. Well, obviously, if it's a normal chat and I know the person, it will come through in a different thing to me. But I actively search through my message requests, and I do.
Is that on Facebook?
That is on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah. So I'm on there, but obviously I'm on there as Mike Bull, Bull, and anybody. Anybody who wants to ask me, but you got various other people that are on there as well. I mean, obviously, I'm only one member of the community. I can't hold the crown for this, and I certainly don't hold the crown. We've got a huge torch, and we got lots of hands on it. And all I did on that night, really, to be honest with you, was put the challenge in. I was asked to speak and do the challenge, and I didn't have a problem with that. Moral courage has never been an issue for me, so I did that. And it lit the fuse, and we've all got fire in our bellies. There's no two ways about that.
You can see that, mate. If you watch the video, that's pretty obvious. It's great to see.
And we've got some great people, as I said earlier. You got Bob Sayers, I was down at Trafalgar with, doing the speech down there. Jeff Mealing. There is so many. Mark Taylor. I could go on and on and on. They know who they are, and I'm grateful that I'm on I'm on their team. But I am just one team member. But I'm more than happy to. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I had a lady last night asking, we're in a similar position, but I can't seem to wake up the community. And I said, right, what you've got to do really, you've got to try and unite them, but try low level. Don't go in there with World Economic Forum. Don't go in there with Agenda 2030. Go low and start bringing to the fore really how they're going to be disadvantaged, because ultimately everybody's going to be disadvantaged. There's no choice. And that was my speech at Trafalgar. It was kind of ad-libbed, and you'll see that I dry up a little bit on there, which two things. That was in awe of the crowd, because obviously, 6-7 weeks ago, Chris, I was just a normal guy in the street. I'd never done public speaking before. And then suddenly, 7-8 weeks later, I'm standing at Trafalgar, honoured by the chance, and humbled by the chance. But, it took me by surprise, the actual sea of people. And it was almost everybody was looking at you, waiting for...
Oh, I know. Well, public speaking, they say it's one thing that people do get most anxious about. Interestingly, So I'm thinking you can master that, then and obviously you're a very articulate, great, speaker and very engaging. Mastering that, I think is something that will stand the campaign in great stead. So basically, if people search for you on Facebook, then Mike Bull on Facebook, and they can message you there. You haven't got a campaign account or anything like that set up then on Facebook or anything yet?
We haven't really, to be honest with you. I mean, at the moment, we've got a 20-minute neighbourhood challenge community, which I set up, or Pete Dive, a friend of mine, he helped me set it up because I wasn't familiar with it. As I say, this is all remarkably new to me. And
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So but the thing is, Mike, I mean, you had to, and say they do some great stuff already. And it's that sense of solidarity and building the campaign locally and nationally and getting support and encouragement, I think, from each other. That's what I think will stand, campaigns like this. And not just for this issue, because I think there's spin-off benefits for lots of other things, really, just in terms of, how public services are organised across the piece, really, and this point I was making earlier about, the whole kind of neighbourhood agenda. Why aren't local people? Why isn't it a matter of course that local people are in the driver's seat in determining what the local priorities are for their neighbourhood, rather than that being determined by some faceless bureaucrat in the town hall or in Whitehall? But let me just bring in Sean, because we're running towards the end of the programme. I know you've got another function to be. Let me just bring in Sean then, just to see what the comments or questions we've had on the chat whilst we've been speaking.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Mike. Once again, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's a fascinating subject, and one that I feel, I found it through YouTube. I found your viral video, which I thought I saw you speak, and just thought, it's amazing that this community is coming together, and it's a real opportunity for other communities to take to look at what you're doing and to do that for themselves. We need more of it in this country, to be quite honest. I just want to thank the people in chat. We've had some great comments and questions. If I can ask the people in chat to just take a minute to like the program, like the page, give us a thumbs up, and if you like what we do here, click the subscribe button and come back. We're here live every Wednesday. Actually, John, who is one of our regular viewers, he's dropped a couple of questions. Actually, he says, has it been considered that the degraduation of public freedom in the overall cause of population supplies reduction for the sake of elite ideas of control? I think he's talking about over the last couple of years, certainly over COVID and since then, the supply chain that we've had going on in this country has been questionable, hasn't it, to say the least. We've had a lack of, well, it started with the lack of toilet paper, didn't it, and then it was construction supplies and eggs and all sorts of things. Do you think that all of that and what's happening now with the 20-minute cities is all to do with sort of the elites wanting control over the population, and doing that's why they're reducing our supplies and trying to reduce us, confine us more into our immediate communities?
Definitely, without a doubt, they need us dependent on them. If we're self-sufficient and we're no real, we're not going to comply. They need us dependent. So what they're going to do is obviously they're going to start hitting, and they already have. I mean, you go to Tesco's, certainly at Thetford, you go to Tesco's, there's no eggs on the thing. Oh no, bird flu, avian flu. You go, oh okay, well, I'll go and get some meat. Oh, meat's in short supply. There's this, there's that. They've done it for years. I mean, mad cow disease. As I said, avian flu isn't the first time it's come out. They have controlled the distribution and the network and the supply. They can do that. And the problem is these people like Tesco's, etc., they will buy into it and they will comply. The chances are there's a farmer somewhere that's got a load of eggs he can't sell because nobody will take them off him. They go, oh, no, it's too high a risk, because they're all propaganda through the media. So, yeah, in answer to his question, yeah, they control the whole distribution and supply chains. There's no two ways about that, and they're very powerful. I mean, when a supermarket can go to a farmer and say, right, this is what we'll pay, and we see it all the time. I mean, more often, little things like you see it with reduction of grants. I mean, Clarkson's Farm was a classic example that opened my eyes to farming. I'm from a farming county, but I'm not from a farming community. So, but I looked at that and I thought, well, 82,000. I remember him and Charlie sitting there and said £82,000 grant has been taken away. Well, that's massive. The impact on that farmer and his barley, his wheat, his produce, whatever he produces, whether it's livestock, dairy, or arable, it wouldn't make any difference. If you're going to get started impacted from Westminster to your farm, then who does that? Who's got control of that? It's obvious. You know, the system controls you. There's no choice about it. We are controlled by the system, and they turn the tap on, they turn the tap off. I mean, I've got no doubt in my mind that suddenly there'll be an influx of eggs, and there'll be, you know, because of, bird flu's over now. Do you know what I mean? So it's all uncertainty. They live and they breed uncertainty into our lives. Well, sometimes you've got to be a little bit more questioning and maybe a little bit more perceptive as to the system they use. And then when they do it, I mean, I move in circles where they go, "Oh, did you see that on the news?" And they go, "No. What was that distracting us from?" Because that's what they're doing. Don't look over here, look over there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, Mike.
Yeah. So in answer to his question, I know I'm long-winded, but yeah, definitely, without a doubt. That's elite down. That's World Economic Forum down. Yeah. Without a doubt, they're controlling.
And just also expanding a bit on that, it's not just the grants that the farmers were relying on from the European Union, which they were promised that if we came out of the EU, they would continue giving those grants. But at the end of the day, it's the supermarkets who are driving the prices, and they're paying an absolute pittance. I think the last time I looked, the supermarkets were paying something like 2p a pint for milk. And when you consider the amount of work and the amount of money that goes into keeping the cows, looking after the cows, milking them, etc., the farmers can't live on 2p. They can't supply a country with those with the food that we need on those small amounts of money. But who is benefiting at the end of the day? It's the shareholders. It's the shareholders from, supermarkets, from, Tesco, Sainsbury's, etc. They're the ones that are cashing in and making all the money at the end of the day. And that's something that I know Chris is a vegan, but it's something, it's a food supply chain issue, and it's something that needs consideration. The other question that John came up with, who is going to enforce the agenda? I'm aware here and there, the farmers in the Netherlands, etc., the reattribution of land use, the reattribution of person and their value. I'm not quite sure what he means by the reattribution of land use. But his ultimate question is who's going to control all of this? And do people have, you were talking about consent, Mike. I want you to expand on that a bit, because I think that's really important. We were supposed to have Ruth Skolmli on tonight, and she talks about common law, and that's all about consent. And if you haven't got a contract with somebody, then you haven't consented, and therefore it's not common law. Can you expand on that a bit? So it was the question from John was, who controls it? And then if you could just expand on that a little.
With regard to who controls it, I mean, land, I think, this is how I see it, looking at Agenda 2030, I think land will eventually be seized back and it will be rented back to people. So I think ownership of land, I think, will become almost a thing of the past. The system will seize its land back because, I mean, ultimately, when you look at like a house, although you own the house, you have title of deed to the land that the house sits on. So effectively, if they want to take that land back, or for some reason, which I think my understanding, I've not gone too deep into this because obviously I've been busy on other stuff, but when I look at the title deed on a property, you have to apply for planning permission to extend or change or alter your house. Well, if you own that house outright, why should you have to do that? You've got to ask yourself. Well, again, it's the system of control, isn't it? And when you look at different aspects, I mean, farming and land and everything else, I think they've got more control if they own or take the land and seize the land and then rent it back to you, because it's then their land and they can do you can do what they want you to on that land. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think if that is what is John is, what's it? I don't really understand his question in the terminology, but if it is about, you know, taking something away and then letting you have a little bit back, then not being funny, but we've had 3 years of that, haven't we? We took away your liberties and then you could have 20 minutes back. But there's the thing, isn't it? 20 minutes exercise 15 minutes from your house. There's your conditioning ready for what we're going through now. Get used to it. Just shop locally, stay at home, save lives, protect this, protect that. All done on guilt and nothing more than that. But we see where it's all coming into fruition now from the system. And the system has basically spent the last 3 years indoctrinating and programming people, and it's done a fantastic job. With regard to what you were saying a little while ago about the two-tier system, when you look at farming, what they did is they gave them that 82,000. They said, here you go, there's £82,000. So what you've got is you've got one column here sitting 82,000. Well, over here, you've got the item that you're selling, but you're not wholeheartedly worried about how much that sells for at the minute, because in this bank, you've got 82 grand. So what they do is they're very clever. So what they start reducing this price down, but they go, oh, you know, we'll reduce this down, but we'll give you another 5,000 here. So you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's not too bad. And then this gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And then suddenly this is gone. And you go, well, hang on a minute. I can't live on what you've, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. The grants have stopped now. But column B is real low. I've got no money. Yeah, sorry about that. And that's what they're doing. And that's where people need to wake up and see the bigger picture, because there's always a motive. There's a motive with the council. There's a motive with the government. There's always a motive. And that motive is never going to be on your side. That is never with your best interest. They will say it is, of course. They will say because they lie. You know, we've had 3 years of lies, and it's all starting to come out now, and they're starting to panic, and things are escalating and getting faster. And you can see that by the different implementation and the way they're doing it in the media. But you know,
just on your point about who owns land ownership in Britain. I mean, there's a really good book by Kevin Cahill, I think his name is, called "Who Owns Britain." I mean, the truth is that the vast bulk of Britain is still owned by the landed gentry, and they control, vast swathes of land, and sometimes in very lucrative locations like what's it called, the Duke of Westminster. I mean, he owns large tracts of London and rents out properties and brings in, it's kind of rentier class. So that's a good book. It's worth getting, and it's not kind of owner occupiers who own their little plot of land. I mean, that's very, very tiny percentage of the actual land mass of Great Britain that's owned by owner occupiers in their own home. It's owned by the people who stole it in the bloody first place, actually, hundreds of years ago. And that's the sort of thing I think we need to be fighting back from. Sean, we're sort of about out of time. Is there any other further points that are pressing that we want to put to action? I know Mike's got somewhere else he needs to be as well.
No, that's everything. There's people still obviously making comments, but there isn't any further questions. Okay. I've put the Thetford 20-minute neighbourhood Facebook page in the chat, so if anybody wants to go over there, can do. And if there's anybody watching who's in and around the Thetford area, please go and support Mike and the rest of the independents over there in their campaign to win back the council for the people.
Great. Well, listen, thanks very much indeed, Mike, for coming on this evening. Thanks, Sean, for your comment. Do you want to make a final comment, did you, Mike?
If you can, please, yeah. All I would say to people is, if you get the opportunity to unite, it doesn't matter if there's one of you, if there's, one more person is, that then becomes two, and it becomes four, and so on and so forth, and you will grow. To anybody that's watching this and is a bit frustrated because their community appears to be asleep, search for people, but go in low level, and you will suddenly find that there are people then, because what happens is people they haven't maybe got the moral courage at the minute, because they think they're going to be ridiculed or or discredited, which is basically what we've had for the last 3 years. And we've had, definitely, because obviously we've been labelled, but we've risen above that, and we go, well, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? At what point does a conspiracy theory become a prophet, and or a theorist become a prophet? Because that's what we're all out now. We're all guessing, and we're guessing accurately. But my message to people is that if you are inspired by tonight, then just start having a look in your community, because I can guarantee you're not alone. You're definitely not alone, and you can then get with someone else, and it's refreshing, because when you actually start speaking to people, they go, yeah, I've got to be honest, I think exactly the same as you do, but I was always scared to come out. Then we've got a team of 2. Then you will suddenly get another 4, 6, 8, 10, and that's how a community grows. You've got to grow it from like they say, from small acorns, big oak trees grow. And
absolutely. That's been a saying of mine. Our mission is to not just grow one giant oak tree, but to grow a forest of giant oak trees.
Ultimately, we are the power that they fear. There's no two ways about that. They don't.
Most certainly, definitely. I mean. And that's why I think there was so much effort put into destroying the Jeremy Corbyn project, because it did inspire a lot of people. Hundreds of thousands of people came together and they thought there was a chance of really changing Britain.
Their policy.
They fear people coming together. There's no doubt about that. And that's so. I think your advice about doing what you've said, is absolutely spot on.
Their policy is divide and conquer. Their policy is divide and conquer. There's no choice about that. Well, we need to reverse that and go unite and defeat. And if we we'll stop this. We could stop this effectively.
Yeah, of course.
We could stop this tomorrow if everybody got together and said, right, no more, just no more. What have they got? They've got nothing. They've got nothing.
No, absolutely. But absolutely, that notion of solidarity, unity is strength is absolutely apposite. And if people could just recognise the strength of their own collective power, then just ordinary people are unstoppable, because we are the 99%. But the British Empire was probably the most successful empire in history, and they succeeded through divide and rule. And the people that ran the British Empire, that class of people, they're still in the ascendancy today. And so they use those tactics of divide and rule. And you're right, we need to, undercut them. And what you say, starting very much from grassroots, and, just finding one other person, then it builds and then it builds. And as I say, I recommend people look at that video about your experience, and just show how powerful, the community coming together can really be. Listen, Mike, thanks very much indeed for coming on tonight. I really appreciate that. I hope people have found it interesting, and we will certainly put the links. I think, as Sean said, we've already done that, so hopefully that will generate some traffic in your direction. If people are interested, obviously please feel free to get in touch with Mike. He's got an open invitation there for you to get in touch, and let's hope that it can grow. And the very best of luck, Mike, in the local elections. Let's hope you get some of your people elected.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Cheers, thanks, Mike.
Okay, take care.
And thank you everybody for watching this evening. And we'll be back at the same time next week at 7 o'clock on Resistance TV. So until then, this is Chris Williamson saying good night.